In the empty beach, the chill of a December morning cuts through the Long Island air. Gilgo Beach, a stretch of sand once alive with the sound of waves crashing against the shore, now lies still, empty, save for a lone figure. A police officer, his breath visible in the cold air, leads a canine unit through the windswept dunes. The search, Shannon Gilbert, a 24-year-old escort who had vanished without a trace. It was supposed to be a routine missing persons investigation, but what they found, what they uncovered, would change everything. Suddenly the dog stops, its nose twitching toward the ground. The officer bends down, heart pounding in his chest. The earth gives way to something buried beneath the surface, a burlap sack. Inside, the decomposing body of a woman. But it wasn't Shannon. What started as a routine search quickly spiraled into a chilling discovery that would haunt Long Island for over a decade. By the end of that week, 3 more bodies had been found, each one a woman discarded like trash. All were young, all had worked as escorts, advertising their services on Craigslist. They were missing for months, perhaps even years, and all had been dumped in the same remote stretch of beach, hidden from the eyes of the world. And yet, this was only the beginning. Each victim left behind a mystery. Their families, desperate for answers, had no idea what had really happened to them. Was this a serial killer targeting vulnerable women, or something even darker, a methodical hunter whose intentions were far more twisted than anyone could have imagined? Who was the killer? In the days and weeks following the initial discoveries, the media quickly dubbed the killer the Long Island serial killer, Lisk. But despite the rapid attention, no one knew who he was or why he had chosen his victims. Law enforcement, with their few scattered leads, seemed just as lost. But there was one haunting detail: the method of disposal. The bodies were carefully placed with such precision that it seemed almost personal. Whoever this killer was, he was calm, calculating, and far from reckless. He had no fear of being caught. The only connection between the victims, the fact that they had all used online classifieds, placing ads under the guise of escort services. But what did that really mean? Was it possible that the killer was someone who had been lured in by these ads, perhaps a man seeking control over women who were already vulnerable? Or did he have an even darker agenda? The women, more than just victims. As the investigation trudged forward, the victims' stories began to emerge, and each one shattered the preconceived notion of just another missing girl. Melissa Barthélemy, 24, disappeared in July 2009. Her younger sister, Amanda, would receive chilling calls from Melissa's phone, calls that weren't made by Melissa, but by the killer himself, taunting Amanda with descriptions of her sister's last moments. Megan Waterman, just 22, had a 2-year-old daughter she was trying desperately to support. Her disappearance wasn't random, it was calculated. Maureen Brainerd Barnes, 25, had been missing for a year when her body was discovered. The picture of a woman trying to make a living in an unforgiving world. Amber Lynn Costello, 27, had spent years drifting through dangerous relationships and unpredictable work. She was last seen alive near a Craigslist ad, and just like the others, she too became a faceless statistic, a soul swallowed by an unsolved mystery. Each woman had a story, a life full of love, loss, and hopes for a better future. They were daughters, mothers, sisters, real people with identities far beyond the escort label pinned on them by headlines. Yet even as the investigation continued, these women were reduced to little more than victims. The focus, for years, was not on their lives, but on the mystery surrounding their deaths, and the killer who seemed to disappear into the shadows after each murder. The investigation later went cold. Years passed, and the case grew colder with every ticking moment. Bodies were uncovered, suspects were questioned, but answers? They were elusive. In 2011, the case took another strange twist. Shannon Gilbert's body was found, but not in the same area as the others. It was discovered in a marsh not far from where the other women had been buried. Her 911 call had been released to the public, a terrifying, disjointed conversation that left more questions than answers. In her final moments, Shannon had been screaming into the phone, desperate and frightened. "They're trying to kill me." But who was she talking to? Was she running from the killer? Was she his first victim? Or had she merely stumbled into something far bigger than herself? Despite the outcry from her family and supporters, Shannon's death was ruled an accidental drowning. But many couldn't shake the feeling that something far more sinister was at play. Had she uncovered the killer's secret before he could silence her? There came a shocking breakthrough. A name finally surfaces. And then, in 2022, the tides of the investigation finally began to turn. DNA technology and cell phone records began to unlock the case that had remained locked for over a decade. The name that emerged from the shadows? Rex Heuermann, a 59-year-old architect who lived just 30 minutes from the beach. A father of two, married, with a picture-perfect suburban life. But beneath this veneer of normalcy lay a man who, it turned out, had been hiding a monstrous secret. For years, Heuermann had lived in plain sight, unnoticed by the world around him. But digital traces, burner phones, and DNA evidence linked him to 3 of the victims. His arrest was a dramatic moment of justice, but it also raised new questions. Could Heuermann be the only killer? Were there more bodies? And what about Shannon Gilbert? Was he involved in her death? Was the truth twisted, or he was more than just a killer? As investigators continued to dig deeper into Rex Heuermann's life, they uncovered disturbing details. Burner phones and a disturbing pattern of online activity pointed to a man who had been stalking and manipulating the lives of women for years. In fact, it was discovered that Heuermann had been using multiple fake identities to contact women on Craigslist, luring them into his trap with promises of cash, only to brutally take their lives when they showed up. But here's the truly horrifying part. Heuermann had been living a double life for years. A respected architect with a family at home by day, a cold-blooded predator by night. This wasn't just a case of random killings. This was a man who meticulously crafted a life of darkness, hidden in plain view. He wasn't just killing for pleasure. He was playing a sick game of cat and mouse, toying with law enforcement, taunting them with every step he took. And now, the twisted truth had finally come to light. But would it bring the closure the victims' families so desperately needed? What about the unanswered questions? Was Heuermann alone? Even with Heuermann's arrest, the case remains incomplete. Shannon Gilbert's death still hangs in the air like a dark cloud. Was her escape from the killer the spark that set the entire investigation in motion? Or was she just another pawn in a much larger, more terrifying game? And the most haunting question of all, could there be more victims hidden in the shadows, waiting to be uncovered? Here is the final twist. As the investigation continues, the truth remains painfully complex. Heuermann has been charged with the murders of at least 3 women, but the full scope of his crimes may never be known. While justice has come for some, the silence still echoes, faintly but persistently, through the sands of Long Island. The case of the Long Island serial killer is a haunting reminder that monsters Don T always live in the shadows. Sometimes they walk among us, masking their darkness with ordinary lives, hidden just beneath the surface. The question remains, is Heuermann truly the end of this story, or is the killer still watching from the darkness? Despite the arrest, key questions remain. Why did the killings stop? Could others be involved? What about the unidentified victims? And is Rex Heuermann linked to Shannon Gilbert? Even prosecutors admit that the full scope of this horror may never be known. The public wants closure, the families want truth, and the whispers along Long Island's southern shore haven't stopped. Engage with us. What do you think? Was Rex Hoyerman working alone, or was there someone else out there helping him? If this story kept you on edge, share it. Not for clicks, but because justice needs witnesses. Subscribe to our newsletter or channel for weekly crime documentaries that uncover the stories mainstream media missed, like what you watched. Bookmark this video, follow us, and never miss a truth untold. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Your theories might just be the next piece of the puzzle.